couple things on the docket, few things that have been addressed, and we're gonna get right into it. And the first thing, I know you've talked about this in recent memory,
Yes.
but
Yes.
direct deposit is officially approved in the
Yes.
college sports landscape, man.
So recently, very recently, it has been approved through court system, through legal litigation, that the college football space will be able to directly pay their players.
Oh, this is
We are
all.
now.
This is all sports.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's college
You
football.
said college football.
Well, college sports in general will be able to pay their players, and it is a long time coming for a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially when it comes down to because I don't unforesee people like Reggie Bush and a couple of other athletes that got punished for getting paid during their times, probably suing for their piece of the pie. Because to be honest, you owe them.
Yeah.
Reggie, because like I
Yeah.
said, what y'all did to him over some autographs, but that's neither here nor there. So as of what was it, Friday last week,
Yep.
legal
As of
settlement has
Friday.
officially been approved. All schools can begin to pay their athletes directly. And starting July 1st, each school will be allowed, but not required, to spend roughly $20.5 million in new payments to the athletes. And this is what we were talking about when it came down. As the figure comes from a negotiated formula that caps athletes' payment at 22% of the average annual revenue that FBS level schools get from ticket sales, broadcast rights, and a few other items, such as like merchandise sales, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Probably concessions too. Each
Concessions, TV sales, broadcast, you know the works.
Yeah, you can just say broadcast rights, TVs, like all that stuff. Each school's athletic department can decide on how it will divide that money among the athletes. So this may
That's going to lead to some issues. That's honestly going to lead to some issues.
It's going to lead to some issues amongst the players because it's going to be like I play every down, or I've been a starter for the last 3 years, and you ride bench. How are you getting more money than me?
Not even that. Like the next aspect, because as we have in the notes, it's like most major programs, like they obviously haven't disclosed how they're going to do their budget, but for the ones that have, they've said that majority 90% of their money is going to go to football and men's basketball. And that's why I say that right there is going to be an issue, and it's going to need to be addressed, because I'm all for having, all right, schools have this amount of money to spend on their players. Like the fact that they came up with the 20.5 million thing, cool, perfectly fine. Not putting in legalities to be like, all right, you have to divvy this up equally. So all the people that bring in revenue to your school get paid equally. And I understand college football and college basketball are the biggest two commodities. I'm not stupid. I get those usually bring in the most money to universities. However, when you also take into account that a lot of other sports over the last 25, 35, 45 years have just now have become a college athletic sport, and a lot of them are generating revenue. For example, women's college basketball. That's been the most watched tournament over the last 4 years. It hasn't been the men's tournament. Women's basketball has been what everybody's been watching.
Which is fair on how you're saying it. But I think the way that this is probably going to get divvied up is based on what each individual sport is bringing in revenue-wise by comparison. Because yes, I agree for sure that women's basketball, especially the women's March Madness tournament, has been the most watched over the last couple of years by comparison to the men's, because the men's hasn't been exciting. It's been more predictable over the last couple of years by comparison. So a lot of people aren't trying to watch it. But when it comes down to between the two, which one is making you more money, you still kind of got to say, like, yeah, the women's is getting more TV money and probably more ticket sales, but you're selling more merchandise based off of the men's. You don't see as many people and I'm saying you don't see as many people wearing women's basketball like merchandise and things of that nature. And at the end of the day, how is that going to balance itself out? I think eventually after a couple of years of it being in practice, they'll get that balanced out. And I do believe when it comes down to the women's sports, that yeah, it's going to start off lower on the beginning, but as it continues to pick up steam like it's doing, I feel like that percentage is going to keep rising and rising as the more it keeps picking up more steam.
In a
Do I
in an
foresee it?
ideal world, in an ideal world, it should. But
I
I think
think
you
it's
were
going to
about to
be
say
women's.
like,
I was going to say I think women's basketball is going to be somewhere around the probably like the third or fourth highest paying category.
it'll go
It'll
because
go
the way it's gonna
men's
go, it'll
football,
be
go football,
football, men's
men's
basketball,
basketball,
women's
baseball,
basketball. No,
and
I
then
think
women's basketball.
I think women's basketball beats out baseball because think about it.
I hope it does.
Just because think
That's
about it,
my hope.
even over the last couple of weeks, neither one of us have been tracking the super regionals and things like that. Sorry, UNC. I'm sad we lost this weekend to Arizona in that close one, in that close nail biter. But nobody was tracking like the super regionals for men's baseball. Honestly, we were tracking softball more than baseball.
This is true. We were tracking
softball more than baseball.
And like I said before, I believe women's basketball is going to be either the third or fourth highest paid sport out of by category. Because then it's probably going to end up being, because like I said, after women's basketball, it's probably going to be like, it may end up being either softball or baseball.
Yeah, it'll be. If I had to make money,
may get lacrosse. You may get
lacrosse.
Lacrosse
is going to be on the up and coming. Lacrosse is probably going to be in there because Final Four hockey doesn't get as much coverage as it should. Like college hockey, the Frozen Four doesn't get as much coverage as it should. Like it does in the northern states. Like any state at the top of the country usually covers it because honestly, let's be real, those states are generally the ones that are dominating hockey in college in the college land space. So it'll be like
play hockey more often than anybody else.
So it's like hockey, then probably lacrosse, then I'd probably put men's wrestling, and then women's gymnastics.
I'd actually probably put women's gymnastics over men's wrestling.
Only reason why is because I hear more about. I generally hear more about men's wrestling tournaments in the college level more than I hear about collegiate gymnastics tournaments. Now, when we get to the Olympics, it's all about women's gymnastics. But now, out of the college level, one of the few names I know from collegiate that was a collegiate gymnast is Caitlin Ohashi. I know that name for a fact.
You got Caitlin Ohashi. You got old girl from Auburn, because she was just at the Knicks like the Eastern Conference Finals games. Mm-hmm. Sonny Lee. Yeah, Sonny Lee was there.
Yeah, Sonny Lee was on. But like I said, you don't hear about him you don't hear about him in season. That's what I'm saying. Like,
so the funny thing about that is I hear more, at least from my feeds, I hear more about women's gymnastics than I do men's wrestling. I don't hear about men's wrestling hardly ever.
Oh, bro.
Even at the collegiate space. I don't even hear about it that much during the Olympics.
I be looking I won't say I be looking for it, but I will say my feed, because I look for women's gymnastics just like I try to look for wrestling and everything. And I'm like, dang, why didn't I hear about like Caitlin Ohashi more in college? Why didn't I hear about Sonny Lee more in college? Why didn't I hear? Because there was a young black lady from LSU a few years ago that was phenomenal. I wish I heard about her more in college.
Oh yeah,
but wrestling every year I hear a story about wrestling. It's like, all right, 3-time defending state champ, the dude who tried to go 4 years straight but lost in the championship because he had like 134 winning streak or something like that. Like I keep getting these stories every year.
Like he was the last person I heard of, and I think that was like 2 years ago.
Like his mom broke her glasses when he lost because she was
because when it comes down to I hear more about lacrosse, I hear more about soccer, I hear more about gymnastics, I hear more about every other sport at the collegiate level. Dang near, they separate. I don't see anything coming through any of my news feeds.
I know you don't hear nothing about golf. I know you don't hear nothing about collegiate golf.
I hear about golf.
Where? Okay, now we lying.
That's what I'm saying. No,
Now we lying, bro. Ain't no way. Ain't no
now
way.
let's be clear on it. It's very rare when I see it. But I see more articles about a golf thing than I've seen about wrestling.
I think you got a ban. I think you got a wrestling ban on your feed. That's what you got. Bro.
I don't know.
You got college wrestling blacklisted. You TikTok your college wrestling off your feed. That's what that is.
I don't blacklist college wrestling.
Is.
Now it may not be high up on my list of interests, but neither is golf. So I'm just like, I don't know.
That's a college wrestling. Yeah, nah, bump all that.
Like y'all are both in the same box for me. So I'm like, I don't know how in the world one of them is out doing the other. But I'm just saying.
Hey, your feed said, yeah, nah. Hey, that man like college golf. He don't want wrestling.
He's like, you're not really gonna watch Monday Night Raw at all. You got it on the list, but you're not gonna we're gonna go ahead and just remove all of this. Maybe gonna remind you that it's on tonight. We're just gonna remove it for you.
He's like, listen, grown men in tights. Yeah, that ain't your forte. You don't want to watch men in singlets. No, but I ain't gonna lie, bro. I ain't gonna honestly,
it's
bro,
tough.
Now I will say this, and this is coming from a guy who wrestled in middle school. Listen,
I tried wrestling.
The techniques used in wrestling. Bro.
Tough stuff.
Tough.
Bro.
A1. I loved wrestling. Only reason I didn't continue it in high school is because it was the same time as basketball season. In Alaska, I was able to do it because basketball was the first part of winter before Christmas break in middle school, and wrestling was the second part after winter break. So I was able to do both.
Ain't nobody's trying to be out on those ice fields for football season. We know it.
Oh no, listen, bro. Because at the end of the day, it was like,
listen, 6 foot deep snow.
Listen, I love playing in snow. I don't care. That's what I did at recess all the time. That's what I did at recess. But it was like I could do those two things, and I learned a lot in wrestling, and a lot of the techniques were just amazing. So yeah, I keep wrestling. Collegiate wrestling definitely stays on my tab, but I get what you're saying. And when it comes down to it, as much as I would like it evened out and everybody get paid accordingly and everybody get their fair share, because at the end of the day, they're all bringing money to this university. Of course. They're all bringing money to this university. And I'm like, we all, at the end of the day, doing the same sacrifice, regardless of your sport. You're all getting up for 5 a.m., 4 a.m. workouts. You're all going to the training staff. You're all doing weightlifting, weight training. You're all having to go to study hall. You're all having to do these projects. You're all having to make sure you're eating right. You're all having to go on these road trips, X, Y, and Z, regardless of the sport you're playing. That's why in an ideal world, I would have had some provisions put to where they have to divvy this up evenly amongst all the sports that the school has. But in a capitalistic world, I understand why some sports will get more of the pie than others because they do generate more revenue than others. I get it.
Because even coming from like a straight up business standpoint, they're going to look at it like we're going to pay out more to the one that's doing more for us. And it just is what it is. And because there's going to be some, and let's say even with the women's basketball thing, there's going to be some schools where the women's basketball program is the smallest earner in the school. So they're probably going to get paid the least.
And there's going to be some where women's basketball is the top earner. UConn.
Mostly.
You know what? That's the thought process I want to think about. What are the schools where you think a different sport is going to be the top earner? Like, I know for a fact, UConn's going to be the top earner for UConn women. That's the top earner up there.
Oh, UConn basketball.
UConn's women. Yeah, UConn, especially women's basketball, that's the top earner up there.
UConn basketball is about to be the top earner. And like part of me would say North Carolina basketball, but it's a new era on the horizon. Things could change up real quick. We'll see what happens.
It's a new era on the horizon, but let's be real. Let's be real and let's be honest. And you and I both know it. North Carolina. One thing we always got, we got hoopers. We might not have always had a football team, but we always got some hoopers. We always got some hoopers.
And the unfortunate piece is the last 3 seasons we've been real mid. But I'm not blaming
not
that
up
on
to
the
our
players. I'm blaming that
not
on
up to
some
our
coaching
standards.
issues. I'm blaming that
We
on some
not up to
coaching
our
issues
standards.
because I
But
had to argue with somebody about that a
at the,
while back about what was going on.